Chapter 11, Sword and Shadow. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Wang Mingyang walked quickly to the subway station. With only more than 40 minutes left before the doomsday, he scanned the code skillfully and entered the station. Ding ding. The gate flashed red lights and made a few sharp sounds. Wang Mingyang was confused, but suddenly reacted and looked at the balance on his phone, 0.58. Fuck. I forgot that I spent all my money yesterday. A chubby girl behind him looked at him with contempt, swiped her phone on the gate, the green traffic light came on, and the two gates opened. The girl squeezed Wang Mingyang and walked forward on her own. Wang Mingyang smiled indifferently, stepped back a few steps to make way for the gate, lowered his head and fiddled with his phone, opened all the white slips and flower shells in it, and then scanned the code to enter the station. It happened that line 2 arrived at the station, and he quickly boarded the subway. Wang Mingyang found a seat to sit down. It would take more than 20 minutes for the subway to reach the provincial library. He needed to use this time to think about his next plan. He now possesses 2 superpowers, which are powerful. The metal control superpower can turn the metal around him into protective gear at any time. The population in the city center is concentrated, and it is even more crowded at noon, so it is easy for a group of zombies to break out. The energy in the body is limited, and it cannot completely guarantee his own safety. He also needs to prepare some weapons. Metal control can easily condense weapons, but since there is still some time, saving a little energy is a little. In my memory, there seems to be an ancient weapons store near the provincial library, which sells various swords and knives. Of course, they are all unsharpened display weapons. However, for him who has the metal control superpower, sharpening is just a matter of hand. The subway arrived at the station on time, and Wang Mingyang grabbed his backpack and ran out quickly, attracting a lot of sidelong glances from the slow crowd around him. What is this guy doing? Is he in a hurry to reincarnate? Who said he wasn't? He got off the train and didn't fight for a seat, and he ran so fast. He must be a wage earner. Several girls wearing JK and suspender skirts only felt a gust of wind blowing around them, and couldn't help but mutter and laugh. Without even turning his head, Wang Mingyang strode up the stairs and disappeared in a few steps, ignoring the ridicule of these people. In a dozen minutes, they will know what social beating is. Rushing out of the subway station quickly, Wang Mingyang identified the direction and ran straight to the mall not far from the subway entrance. The weapons store is a street shop near the mall. He had been curious and visited it once before, and met the prop staff of the crew purchasing sample models. Shenjiao Weapons Store. A huge plaque and an eye-catching storefront. Wang Mingyang's eyes lit up and he rushed in. The dazzling display cabinets of weapons dazzled him instantly. The waiter inside was receiving 2 middle-aged men and was startled by Wang Mingyang, who rushed in quickly. Hello, is there anything I can do for you? We have a full range of long and short weapons here, with reliable quality and various styles, all made by masters. Another waitress dressed in hanfu and graceful figure immediately stepped forward, bowed slightly with a professional smile and asked softly. I need a straight knife or a horizontal knife. The style doesn't matter, the quality must be tough enough. Wang Mingyang said quickly. The weapons displayed in this store are basically models, which are more for the crew or enthusiasts. The crew uses props, which are soft and diverse in style. The waitress understood as soon as she heard it that this handsome guy must be an enthusiast, and what he needs is a real weapon that has not been sharpened. Hello, please follow me. The waitress smiled and gestured, leading the way to the inner room. The lights in the inner room were bright, and there were many unsharpened swords hanging on the wall. Wang Mingyang walked straight to the knife wall and scanned the knives on the wall. These are all unsharpened weapons, including Tang horizontal swords, Yanling swords, ring-headed swords, Japanese swords. The lady introduced the knives on the wall with a smile on her face and a gentle tone. Find me the best horizontal sword in your store. Wang Mingyang looked around and chose the Tang horizontal sword. This kind of weapon is very popular in the end times and is very easy to use. Okay, what's your budget? The young lady nodded and asked a little closer. Give me the best, money is not a problem. Wang Mingyang waved his hand. Well, wait a minute. The young lady glanced at Wang Mingyang's clothes obscurely, turned and walked towards the warehouse. he was wearing street goods, and I don't know where he got the tone to say that. Let's see how he slaps his face." After a while, the young lady came back with a beautiful wooden box. Putting the wooden box on the coffee table in the rest area, the young lady slowly opened it, revealing a simple and elegant Tang horizontal sword. The scabbard was black, simple and clear, and there was no extra decoration. The blade of the horizontal sword is straight and upright, with the kingly style of the sword and the domineering spirit of the knife. This Tang horizontal sword was cast by Master Wu Ming, forged with the highest strength manganese steel, and was made after thousands of hammers and tempers. Wang Mingyang was too lazy to listen to the waiter's introduction, stretched out his hand to grab the horizontal sword, and pulled it out by holding the handle. Qing Liang tried to swing the 80-centimeter long blade and felt it was quite smooth. Wang Mingyang also used the metal control to sense the blade. The structure inside was fine, and it was indeed tough enough after thousands of hammers. He had used several Tang swords in the 5 years of the end of the world, but none of them could reach this strength. It was really good. Reading books is just theory after all. It would also be good to look at the finished product and observe the metal structure to improve the supernatural power. If you really don't do well in the future, you can still make knives in exchange for supplies or something. It smells good. Nodding with satisfaction, Wang Mingyang put the sword into its sheath and asked calmly, "How much does this cost?" That the waiter's mouth twitched slightly, but she still responded with a professional smile, "This knife is called Mo-ing, and the total price is 100,000. Okay, where can I pay?" Wang Mingyang nodded without hesitation. His Aijiaoan payroll limit was 200,000, which was completely enough. Anyway, after the end of the world, no one will chase him to pay back the money, and it will not be spent until it is in vain. The young lady seemed to have no idea that Wang Mingyang really wanted to buy it and could afford it, so she was not slapped in the face at all. Instead, her face seemed to hurt, and her cheeks began to turn slightly red. "Please go this way. The young lady is a professional." After being stunned for a while, she immediately adjusted herself. Holding the wooden box, she began to guide Wang Mingyang. The smile on her face became much more sincere. Wang Mingyang followed the young lady back to the lobby and scanned the QR code to pay at the cashier. Ding! 100,000 yuan has been received. Welcome next time. Seeing that Wang Mingyang really paid, the smile on the waitress's face became brighter and brighter. She bowed and handed over the wooden box containing Mo-ing. She was thinking of leaving her contact information so that she could develop and sell more knives in the future. "Sir, would you like to keep one?" Wang Mingyang grabbed the wooden box, slung it over his shoulder, and turned away neatly. The waitress suddenly froze in place, and the smile on her face began to distort. At 11:53 on May 26, 2035, there are only a few minutes left before the end of the world. I don't have time to talk to you here, so why don't I leave any contact information? When the apocalypse comes and the communication network is cut off, leave a hammer behind. Will I look for you in the pile of corpses then? A real-life version of I Have a Date with a Zombie? See which bone is destined to you. Nothing. Chapter 12 The End of the World. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Go out to the street and walk straight to the library. Wang Mingyang looked up at the sky while walking. A circle of red shadows appeared around the dazzling sun. In the previous life, Wang Mingyang was sleeping at this time. Later, he heard that at 12 noon, the sun was shrouded in blood shadows, and the sunlight turned into blood light, shining on the entire blue planet. Even if you hide underground, you will be penetrated by the blood light. It seems that the entire blue planet is penetrated by the blood light of the sun. What followed was the outbreak of zombies, biological mutations, and the beginning of the end of the world. Now squinting and seeing the red shadows around the sun, Wang Mingyang estimated that the blood light would arrive as scheduled at 12 o'clock, carrying a backpack full of supplies and a long wooden box. Wang Mingyang ran into the provincial library quickly. "Hello, welcome, how can I help you?" Datsuyu bowed slightly without raising her head as usual. When she raised her head with a smile, she found that the person in front of her was Wang Mingyang again. "Brother Mingyang, why are you here again?" Suyu said in a tender voice. She found that Wang Mingyang really didn't remember her, so she just spoke directly. "Oh. Who are you?" Wang Mingyang frowned slightly, and really couldn't remember who this familiar pretty girl was. Xiaoyu rolled her eyes at him and said coquettishly, I am Xiaoyu. If you say you don't know me again, I will ask my mother to raise your rent when I go back. Ah. It turned out to be you. I haven't seen you for a long time. Are you doing an internship here? That Wang Mingyang suddenly realized that she was Xiaoyu. No wonder he always felt a little familiar. After a closer look, she looked a little similar to Aunt Lu. Yes. Are you here to borrow books again? Didn't you just borrow a few books yesterday? Xiaoyu tilted her head, looking puzzled. Wang Mingyang looked around and saw the reading area in the corner. While walking towards the corner, he said calmly, I'm here to read other books. Oh, then. I'll pour you a glass of water later. Xiaoyu was a little disappointed and took the initiative. Wang Mingyang waved without looking back, walked to the table and put down his backpack and wooden box. Xiaoyu, is he your friend? The handsome young man at the counter asked in a low voice. Yes. We live in the same building. Xiaoyu was a little surprised, and then smiled. We are so familiar, what does he do? The handsome young man frowned slightly and continued to ask questions. It seems to be doing business, I don't know the details, Senior Li Qin, I will go to get him a glass of water. Xiaoyu smiled, ignored Li Qin's entanglement, turned around and poured a glass of water, holding the paper cup in both hands and walked towards Wang Mingyang. Wang Mingyang estimated the time and looked at the street outside the window through the glass. There were few people on the first floor of the library, but the street outside the window was crowded with people. Across the street was the famous Beiping pedestrian street in Spring City, and it was crowded on weekends. A pair of smooth and delicate long legs appeared beside him, and Wang Mingyang's heart was slightly moved when he saw the fair skin from the corner of his eyes. Looking up, I saw Xiaoyu, who was wearing a sky-blue pleated skirt and a white t-shirt, supporting two towering peaks, still with a high ponytail and a sweet smile on her face, standing in front of him with a paper cup in her hand. Brother Mingyang, give you some water. Looking at Xiaoyu's youthful smile, Wang Mingyang felt a sense of loss in his heart. 5 years after the end of the world, it was impossible to see such a smile, and everyone was struggling desperately to survive. A bright girl like Xiaoyu, if she didn't die in the mouth of zombies, would die under the dark human nature. Thank you, Xiaoyu, if you're okay, sit with me for a few minutes. Wang Mingyang reached out to take the paper cup and took a sip, saying softly. Xiaoyu didn't expect Wang Mingyang to ask her to sit with him for a few minutes, turning around to look at the counter, seeing that there were no customers to be received there for the time being. Xiaoyu pulled out a chair, reached out to touch her pleated skirt to her hips, and sat down. Brother Mingyang, have you been busy recently? I haven't seen you much. Xiaoyu leaned forward slightly, opened her two cute eyes and whispered. Shoo, don't talk, look outside. Wang Mingyang did not answer, but pointed out the window, opened the ink shadow wooden box and grabbed it out. Huh. Although Xiaoyu was puzzled, he also looked out obediently. The big clock on the archway of the pedestrian street in the distance, the second hand was beating, and the clock was slowly pointing to 12 noon. Ding! As the bell rang, the originally dazzling sun suddenly burst into blood light. The whole world turned blood red at this moment, whether indoors or outdoors, even at the bottom of the dark deep sea, was illuminated by this blood light. All the creatures on the entire blue star were stunned at this moment, except Wang Mingyang, who was holding a horizontal sword. He was horrified. He had never seen this scene in his previous life. At this moment, he found that following the blood light, it seemed that his sight could penetrate the wall and reach the blood-red sun in the middle of the sky. Ding! System upgrade completed, new features added. Wang Mingyang had no time to pay attention to the system prompt sound. The moment his sight touched the blood-red sun, a few faint whispers suddenly sounded in his mind. The sound was elusive and incomprehensible. With his shallow knowledge of language, he had no idea what it meant, but those whispers remained in his mind as clearly as an engraving. The next moment, the blood-red sun suddenly trembled, and a golden light bloomed from the edge. The sun seemed to be separated from the middle, forming two discs, one white and one red. The white sun was still dazzling, but it contained a touch of holy gold. The red sun was so red that it was dripping, and it contained an inexplicable weirdness. Wang Mingyang looked at the scene that had happened in the past 2 days through the bloodlight, and his heart was in turmoil. In the previous life, this blood sun did not appear at the same time. Not to mention that he had not seen this scene with his own eyes, even if he later heard of such a scene from other survivors. Could it be that my rebirth triggered a butterfly effect and produced unpredictable changes? Wang Mingyang murmured in a low voice, if having the system gave him 100 times more confidence, then the predictive ability brought by rebirth was the root of his confidence, but at this moment, it seemed that some changes had occurred, causing his prediction to deviate. The blood light was all over the sky, and it seemed that only a second had passed. The next moment, the blood light disappeared, and the sun shone on the earth again. However, something had been subtly changed. On the street, friends who were still talking and laughing the moment before, couples who were still in love the second before, mothers and children who were affectionate, suddenly, they became hideous, drooling and pounced on the closest people around them, and there was chaos everywhere, and the crowd fled. In just a few minutes, the whole bustling street was filled with wailing. Zombies were everywhere, gnawing at flesh and blood crazily, and people kept dying and wailing. Or new zombies stood up with bloody bodies and joined the predator army. The whole street was full of wailing, cries for help, explosions, and traffic was paralyzed. Zombies were everywhere killing humans. At this moment in Chuncheng, rats in the gutter, stray cats and dogs on the street, and animals in the zoo, one by one, they began to grow huge, their eyes turned red and their bloodthirsty instincts turned on, and they rushed to the street to prey on humans or zombies. Before the weird and unpredictable end of the world, the insignificance of human beings seemed so pathetic. Chapter 13 Su Family Xiaoyu. You are listening at novelfull.audio. At the moment of doomsday, Wang Mingyang came back to his senses from the blood, slowly pulled out the horizontal sword in his hand, and wiped the blade with his left hand. A sharp edge slowly appeared as his left hand moved, and the originally thick and blunt blade surged with silver liquid, becoming extremely sharp. Using the metal control ability to sharpen the blade, Wang Mingyang danced the horizontal sword lightly, looking at the beautiful Xiaoyu in front of him with an inexplicable look. Suyu's eyes were wide open, her cherry mouth opened wide, and one hand covered her mouth tightly. The hell scene on the street outside the window made her tremble all over, but unexpectedly she didn't make any sound. Zombies have begun to appear in the hall, biting other living people. Several people also ran down the stairs, and more than a dozen zombies chased after them, rolling down the stairs. Suyu, run, these people are crazy. Li Qin was lucky not to become a zombie. He ran toward Suyu regardless of the danger, grabbed her hand and wanted to run out. Suyu staggered, but suddenly struggled to break free from Li Qin's hand and turned to look at Wang Mingyang, who was holding a horizontal sword. Wang Mingyang looked at Suyu in surprise. This girl didn't turn into a zombie. It seemed that she was also a lucky one. Li Qin's shouting attracted the attention of the zombies in the hall, and several zombies roared and rushed over here. Wang Mingyang did not hesitate, stepped forward, and slashed with the horizontal sword in his hand, and several heads rolled to the ground. Li Qin screamed while blood was sprayed, "You lunatic! You actually killed people! Human! Can this be called a human?" Wang Mingyang turned around calmly, his eyes cold. Li Qin was frightened by this look and trembled all over. He thought about pulling Suyu to run outside. "Suyu, go, stay away from this lunatic." Suyu reflexively dodged backwards and shook his head desperately. His face was pale but still firm. "Damn! I don't care about you." Seeing that Suyu was indifferent, Li Qin ignored Suyu in a hurry, cursed angrily, and turned to run out of the library. There were zombies everywhere on the road, but there were fewer people at the entrance of the library, and the crowd was concentrated in the opposite commercial area. Li Qin chose to run out of the hall at this time, probably thinking that there were only zombies nearby, and he thought he would be safe as soon as possible. Obviously, he thought too much. "Why don't you leave?" Wang Mingyang shook the blood on the horizontal sword, not caring at all that other zombies in the hall were still biting people. This corner seemed to be detached from the world at this moment. "I don't know, but I think that following you, Brother Mingyang, is the best choice." Suyu shook her head, with fear on her face, trembling all over, but her feet were still firm. Oh. Why do you say that? Wang Mingyang seemed to be a little interested, and he had not had much contact with this girl before. Unexpectedly, she was able to remain calm and choose the correct answer in this situation. Brother Mingyang, you just asked me to sit down and look outside. You seem to know what would happen, so I think no matter what happens, staying with you should be the best choice. Suyu did not hesitate at all and quickly said what was in his mind. Well, follow me first. Don't leave me 3 meters away, and then it depends on your luck. Wang Mingyang looked at her with a little surprise and nodded. The moment he knew that she was Suyu, he considered saving her life for Aunt Lu's sake. If she could awaken her superpowers in a short period of time, it would not be impossible to keep her for use. In the end times, fighting alone is not a long-term solution. Although he has the Zhutian Reading System, his strength will become stronger and stronger, but there is always a process. It is still possible to add a little manpower to form a combat team, it's just that it's too difficult to meet someone who is trustworthy. Walking leisurely in the hall, Wang Mingyang casually waved Moang and killed several zombies. Zombies were still running down the stairs. Looking at the small group of zombies almost lined up in a line, Wang Mingyang flicked his finger, and a black arc shot out from his fingertips, passing directly across the dozen zombies in front. Without waiting for the corpse to fall to the ground, Wang Mingyang raised his palm again, and the metal within a radius of 5 meters around him turned into liquid and gathered. Under his control, it condensed into 9 sharp steel needles floating around the body. Suyu stared at the scene in front of her in amazement. She couldn't imagine that the handsome young man in front of her had such magical abilities like a superhero hidden in the crowd. With the crazy shooting of steel needles, the heads of zombies in the hall were accurately pierced, and the corridor was covered with corpses. Zombies began to appear at the entrance of the library at this moment, and several people ran in, followed by more than a dozen zombies. After several people rushed into the library, Wang Mingyang waved gently at the door. The metal handle on the glass door slammed the door shut, and the metal frame on the side turned into liquid and floated over, wrapped around the door lock and solidified quickly. Locking the door tightly, the door blocked the dozen zombies that lagged behind, but there were still 4 or 5 who rushed in with those people. The zombies that just ran into the hall were chasing several men and women frantically. These people ran around everywhere, throwing the tables, chairs and benches in the hall back, but they didn't know how to hold them in their hands to hit the zombies. Wang Mingyang shook his head speechlessly, motioning Suyu to follow closely, and walked to the stairs, ready to go up to the 2nd floor to clean up the zombies. Brother Mingyang, they. Suyu glanced at the zombies in the hall who were frantically chasing the survivors, with fear and reluctance in his eyes. I have no obligation to help them. If you want to help, go by yourself. Wang Mingyang didn't even look back, stepped calmly over the bloody corpses and stepped onto the steps. Suyu paused when he heard this, and then quickly stepped forward a few steps. His trembling little hand gently pulled the corner of Wang Mingyang's clothes, but he didn't say anything. In just a moment, the screams of several people came from the hall. Suyu's delicate body trembled slightly, but she didn't dare to leave Wang Mingyang at all. After 5 years of darkness and the end of the world, Wang Mingyang's heart has long been as tough as iron. He has low strength but 5 kinds of garbage superpowers, and has endured countless ridicules, sarcasms, spitting, and oppression. He could save Suyu, but he couldn't stand her overestimation. These people didn't even dare to fight zombies, they only knew to run away. Being so cowardly at the critical moment of life and death, such a person, even if he is saved, it is estimated that it will not be of much use. If Suyu has the ability to save others, as long as it does not affect him, then Wang Mingyang will not have any objection. But if you want him to be a saint, sorry, he will kill those who have this idea. First, if Suyu continued to talk too much, Wang Mingyang would definitely throw her down without hesitation. Although it is a pity, it is an iron rule to kill the saint first in the end times. If the saint is on the enemy side, that is another matter. To protect the enemy saint, all the 3 bodies know this. Chapter 14. This fish is poisonous. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Regardless of the various howls and curses coming from downstairs, Wang Mingyang led Suyu up to the 2nd floor. After a burst of shooting, corpses were everywhere, there were collapsed bookshelves everywhere, and some books were stained with blood. Wang Mingyang felt a little distressed when he saw them, suddenly remembering that the system seemed to have been upgraded. Wang Mingyang found a seat by the window and sat down. Wang Mingyang stared at the stairs while communicating with the system in his mind. System, is the upgrade completed? Byte. The Zhutian Reading System has been upgraded to the first stage, with new book scanning and copying functions, new power decomposition functions, and new knowledge summary functions. I know about scanning and copying. Please explain these two functions. That with a flick of his finger, several steel needles shot out, shooting through the zombies rushing down from the third floor. Byte. Power decomposition function. The host can decompose unnecessary powers and obtain corresponding reading values. When you decompose primary abilities, you can get 100 reading points, and when you decompose first-level abilities, you can get 1000 reading points. Superpowers after decomposition cannot be obtained again in the same book. Knowledge summary function. After the knowledge acquired by the host through reading has reached a certain level, it will be organized into volumes through the system and automatically placed in the bookshelf, classified and organized, for the host to browse at any time. Oh, these two functions are very good. Ability without absorption or fusion value can be completely decomposed into reading value. Although the knowledge summary function is not very useful, it can organize the knowledge learned into a book. After systematization, it is easier to deepen understanding, and it is easier to extract abilities by reading the book again. That's great. Wang Mingyang is very satisfied with these two functions. One solves part of the problem of obtaining reading value in a disguised way, and the other increases the difficulty of obtaining abilities in a disguised manner. In short, they are both good things for him. System, start scanning books. Byte. The system scanning range is 5 meters around the host body. Start scanning, 0.5 meters. The range is not small, but not large either. Wang Mingyang originally thought that this function could directly sweep a building, but it seems that he thought too much, but that's okay, it's just a matter of taking a few extra steps. Wang Mingyang stood up and started walking slowly along the bookshelf. Xiaoyu, who was following him, was a little confused, but he didn't dare to ask any more questions. He could only follow Wang Mingyang to measure the library step by step. Byte. Scan the book's Principles of Linguistics and History of English Teaching. Byte. Scan the book's Common Language, International Language Learning. Byte. Scan books. Hey, the system is huge. Now that it has been upgraded, this ding is really a bit of a headache. Can't it be optimized? Byte. At the request of the host, optimization of default settings has been started. Byte. Cancel the voice prompt ding and can turn it on again if the host needs it. Wow. Wang Mingyang couldn't help but say in surprise, which caused Xiaoyu to look sideways. There were question marks all over his head. He had no idea what the big brother was surprised about. Finally, he no longer had to endure the brainwashing sound of ding. Wang Mingyang instantly felt that his mind was much clearer. It took more than 30 minutes to walk through the entire second floor and scan and copy all the books into the library. Wang Mingyang turned around and walked towards the third floor. The entire library has a total of 5 floors, with nearly 4 million paper books in it. The second floor is mostly for language and literature, economics, culture and education. The third floor is mostly for natural sciences, such as mathematics, physics, chemistry, biology, nature, aerospace, astronomy, industry, transportation, military, etc. These categories are more suitable for Wang Mingyang to extract superpowers. Nearly 3 hours have passed since the 4th and 5th floors were scanned, and the zombies in the library have been cleared away. Wang Mingyang got his wish and scanned almost the entire library's collection into the system library. This way, he can easily read millions of books even when he stays at home. Looking from the window, there are no living people on the street anymore. There are zombies with fangs and hideous eyes everywhere. The streets are filled with blood and broken limbs are everywhere. Wang Mingyang took Xiaoyu back to the first floor. There was no one alive in the hall. There were more than 20 zombies wandering around. Of the men and women who ran in before, there were only a few deformed corpses left that had been eaten. There is no chance of turning into a zombie. he casually ejected the steel needle around him and killed all the more than 20 zombies. Wang Mingyang felt a stabbing pain in his mind, as if he continued to use his powers, causing excessive mental consumption. Seeing that there was no danger in the library, Wang Mingyang waved his hand and caused the 9 steel needles to turn into silver liquid, condense into 9 silver beads and put them in his pocket. After scanning various books and magazines on the first floor, he took Xiaoyu back to the reading area on the second floor, where he cleared a clean area and sat down. At this time, Xiaoyu finally couldn't help the strong nausea in his heart. He ran to the side and released the palm that was tightly covering his mouth. The turbulent things in his stomach rushed out of his mouth, and he vomited loudly. After a while of violent retching, Xiaoyu straightened up, patted his tall chest, took a breath, and then slowly returned to Wang Mingyang. "Drink some water, it will make you feel better." Wang Mingyang handed over a bottle of mineral water and smiled calmly. He had seen this kind of scene many times, and his heart was already calm, but he was a little suspicious of Xiaoyu's performance. It was his first time to face such a bloody scene, and he couldn't help but be surprised that this little fish could endure it for so long. "Brother Mingyang, thank you." Xiaoyu took the mineral water, but drank 2 sips and stopped moving. "You are very good. Facing such a bloody scene, you actually endured for so long before vomiting. Awesome." Wang Mingyang drank the water, and his tone was full of praise. "It's okay, Brother Mingyang, you must not know what my major was in college." Xiaoyu's cheeks were slightly red, and he said in a low voice. I really don't know, what did you study?" Wang Mingyang muttered with water in his mouth. Xiaoyu's white palm gently stroked and brushed a strand of hair stained with sweat on her cheek behind her ear. The movement was gentle and charming. Her cheeks were slightly red. She opened her cherry mouth with a hint of shyness and gently spit out 2 words. "Puff." Wang Mingyang heard this and a mouthful of water sprayed out of his mouth. "What? What did you study?" Wang Mingyang shouted. Xiaoyu whispered, "Forensic doctor." "Fuck." Wang Mingyang was in tears, looking up and down at the tall and plump Xiaoyu, and 1,000 grass mud horses were trampling through his heart. Such a white and tender girl with ups and downs, deep valleys, protruding front and back, beautiful and lively, she actually learned to be a forensic doctor. Can you believe this? Do you dare to play? I will stab you dozens of times, every knife will avoid the vital parts, just ask you if you believe it. This fish is poisonous. Chapter 15. Let's find a hotel to stay for one night. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Forensic medicine. No wonder Xiaoyu didn't vomit immediately when facing such a bloody scene. In his previous life, Wang Mingyang was so disgusted that he vomited bitter bile when he killed a zombie for the first time, but he never thought that Xiaoyu, a delicate little fish, would go to study forensics. I don't know what she thinks. Dealing with all kinds of corpses all day long, is she not afraid at all? Anyway, Wang Mingyang felt that he definitely couldn't do it. While he was extremely surprised, he couldn't help but feel a little admiration. Why did you choose this major? Did you transfer? No, I applied for it myself. I just want to be closer to my father. Xiaoyu smiled indifferently, with a hint of reminiscence. Oh. Wang Mingyang nodded. He knew that Aunt Lu's husband was once a policeman and died in the process of arresting suspects. Why don't you apply for the police academy? My mother didn't let me, so I could only secretly apply for the forensic medicine major. When the notice came, she almost beat my butt. Xiaoyu covered her mouth and chuckled, as if thinking of the past scene. Why did you come here for internship? Your major is not suitable. I haven't found a suitable unit yet. Senior Li Qing said that there is a shortage of waiters here, so I came here to work first. I can also read books. Xiaoyu tapped her lips with a helpless look on her face. My mother also insisted that I come here. She also called my father's previous unit and told me not to go. Aunt Lu. Wang Mingyang was a little touched, but at this moment he didn't know Aunt Lu's fate at the moment. Brother Mingyang. Xiaoyu bit her lip, wanting to say something but stopping. Are these zombies, only here? Suyu had a glimmer of hope in her eyes. Before, Wang Mingyang had been busy fighting zombies and scanning books into the warehouse, and had no time to pay attention to her. And Wang Mingyang killed the zombies cleanly and neatly, and his murderous aura made the smart Xiaoyu dare not disturb him at all. At this time, gossip started, making Xiaoyu unable to suppress his anxiety and asked questions. Wang Mingyang looked at the beauty in front of him and shook his head sadly. No, the whole world has exploded, and most people will become zombies. Then, my mother. Xiaoyu had a calm expression all the time, but finally couldn't hold it anymore. Before I went out, I told Aunt Lu to close the door and rest, but I don't know if she would listen to me and do it. Wang Mingyang shook his head and said calmly. I want to go downstairs to get my phone to make a call. Xiaoyu cried a little, her eyes slightly red. It's useless. The moment the doomsday comes, the communication network will be cut off. Soon, the electricity will be cut off for various reasons. Then what should I do? Mom is alone at home. Will she? Xiaoyu sobbed softly. At this time, she looked like a little girl in her 20s. There's no way, Xiaoyu. This place is too far from the convenience store. Even for me, it's impossible to get there safely in a short time. Wang Mingyang shook his head silently, not to mention whether he has the ability now. Even if he has this ability, it's impossible for him to take Xiaoyu, who has no fighting power, through the whole city just to confirm whether Aunt Lu is safe. The relationship was not that serious. Wang Mingyang, who grew up in an orphanage, had long lost someone who could make him risk his life for him. Mom, nothing will happen to her. Xiaoyu folded her hands and prayed silently with tears. As smart as she was, she knew very well what the situation was like outside. As calm as she was, she knew that if she rushed out rashly, she would only end up dead. If she followed Wang Mingyang, she might still live. If she left Wang Mingyang, she would definitely die. Before she could see her mother, who was unknown whether she was alive or not, she would probably die on the way. Wang Mingyang saw that Xiaoyu stopped talking, and his opinion of this girl's intelligence and obedience increased again. In the previous life, I met many women who didn't know what was good for them. They thought they were beautiful and had good figures, so they asked others to do this and that, pretended to be miserable to gain sympathy, acted coquettishly and offered themselves actively, and did everything they could to achieve their goals. The sad thing is that most men will be fooled by these green tea bitches. Thinking of this, Wang Mingyang couldn't help but smile bitterly. He was one of these men at the beginning, otherwise he wouldn't be fascinated by a mere Wang Ruoqing, and finally he was framed by her and Zhao Yimin, and buried in the mouth of the corpse. In his new life, Wang Mingyang will never repeat the same mistakes. Compared with those women in the previous life, Xiaoyu in front of him knows how to make choices and know when to advance and retreat. Even if she is extremely anxious, she doesn't ask Wang Mingyang to take risks. Women who study forensics are really extraordinary. Okay, you don't have to think too much. If Aunt Lu unfortunately turns into a zombie, can you kill her when you see that appearance after returning? If she listens to me and closes the door before 12 o'clock to rest, the zombie outbreak will not threaten her in a short time, and you still have a chance to meet her. Wang Mingyang comforted casually, and took out basics of metallurgy from his bag and flipped through it. Metal control is indeed very powerful, and the energy consumption is much smaller than space cutting. It is a great weapon to deal with zombie mutants in the early stage. Xiaoyu nodded, wiped her tears, and was surprised to see Wang Mingyang holding a book and reading. It's already this time, brother, are you still reading? Do you have to be so leisurely? If it weren't for the zombies everywhere and roaring outside, Xiaoyu would have thought she was on a reading date with Wang Mingyang. This damn sense of disharmony. After a long while, Xiaoyu calmed down and looked up and asked, Brother Mingyang, how can you have this ability to control steel needles? Is it innate? Wang Mingyang raised his head and shook his head slowly. No, I awakened today. Xiaoyu's eyes lit up. Then, can I also? Wang Mingyang nodded. All the people who survived may awaken their superpowers, sooner or later. After the end of the world, a small number of people awakened their superpowers on their own, and most people can also awaken their superpowers by absorbing crystal cores obtained from zombies and mutants. It's just that now, crystal cores have not yet condensed in zombies and mutants, and it will take a week for them to be common. Really? That's great. Xiaoyu burst into laughter and temporarily put aside his worries about his mother. I thought to myself that if I awakened my superpowers earlier, I could go home earlier to find my mother and protect her. An hour later, the system prompt sounded in Wang Mingyang's mind. The host is detected to be familiar with basics of metallurgy, and the fragment of the ability metal control is extracted +1. Metal control fragment, 1, reward reading value, 100 points. The reward reading value is 20 points more, not bad. System, what does this extra fragment mean? The host currently has the ability of metal control, and the extra fragments can be used to enhance the strength of the ability. Okay, I understand. Read more, save fragments, and upgrade the ability, right, correct understanding. Let's go. Let's find a hotel nearby to stay for one night. Wang Mingyang put away the book, stood up, stretched, and said to Xiaoyu beside him. Chapter 16 I have a date with a zombie. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Hotel. Xiaoyu's delicate body trembled. This was too fast. Although she had liked this handsome and strong young man since she first learned about Wang Mingyang from her mother more than a year ago, she was so frank that she lets go to a hotel and stay one night together. This was really a bit unprepared. What are you thinking? You're not serious. It's already 5 o'clock, and it will be dark in 2 hours. After dark, it will be more dangerous. We must find a place to stay. Wang Mingyang rolled his eyes, and he could tell by his expression that Xiaoyu Xian doesn't learn well, although Xiaoyu is very beautiful, with a tall figure, convex front and back, fair and soft skin. Well, the advantages lie entirely in Wang Mingyang's aesthetics, but it's not that easy to get into his car. Although Xiaoyu's IQ and EQ are very high, Wang Mingyang does have the idea of taking him as his follower, but Wang Mingyang, who has experienced betrayal, will not trust her so easily. The more beautiful a woman is, the more likely she is to lie. When Xiaoyu heard this, his pretty face turned red with embarrassment. He quickly stood up and twirled the hem of his skirt with his fingers, feeling a little at a loss. Wang Mingyang felt that most of the energy in his body had recovered. He casually threw the metal silver beads in his pocket into the air and transformed them into 9 steel needles. Xiaoyu followed him closely, gently grabbing the corner of his clothes with a jade hand. Wang Mingyang glanced at it without saying a word, grabbed his backpack, calmly stepped over the corpses on the ground, and walked downstairs with Xiaoyu. When passing by the counter, Xiaoyu let go of his hands, ran quickly behind the counter with his sneakers on, and found a mobile phone, but the voice from the phone disappointed her. Unable to connect at the moment, please call again later. Wang Mingyang didn't lie to her. The cell phone signal bar didn't display at all, and the call could no longer be made. Not daring to delay, Xiaoyu quickly took out a small backpack and put his cell phone inside. Returning to Wang Mingyang, he had already liquefied the metal that locked the door into a ball. He casually stretched and deformed the ball of molten metal, condensing it into a horizontal knife. After stroking the blade lightly, he tore a strip of cloth and wrapped it around the handle. Wang Mingyang handed the new knife to Xiaoyu. Take it, you need to learn to protect yourself and kill zombies with your own hands. Otherwise, you won't be able to keep up with me. With a calm tone but no refusal at all, Xiaoyu bit his jelly-like red lips, took a deep breath, took the slightly rough but still sharp horizontal knife, and held it tightly in his hand. She knew very well that in fact, she did not have much friendship with Wang Mingyang, and it was more just her own wishful thinking. Wang Mingyang is right, she must learn to protect herself. Only in this way can she find and protect her mother. As for whether he could keep up with him, Xiaoyu didn't want to think about it now. This knife weighs about 1.5 kilograms, which is a little heavy for Xiaoyu's delicate hands. Fortunately, she insists on exercising and is not the kind of little fairy who needs help to unscrew the bottle cap. Wang Mingyang took a few steps forward, grasped the door handle and opened the door. The zombies on the street outside heard the movement and immediately rushed towards the steps screaming. Several steel needles shuttled back and forth between the zombies' heads, and a group of zombies fell to the ground before they could reach the two of them. After identifying the direction, Wang Mingyang remembered that there was a 5-star luxury hotel near this street. He could not remember the specific name. With his ability, he had never stayed in a 5-star hotel in his life. Don't ask why you haven't enjoyed it in the last 5 years. Ask yourself why you didn't have the ability before and couldn't get your turn. The provincial library is about 700 to 800 meters away from the hotel. After pointing in the direction, Wang Mingyang took the lead and ran along the side of the street, so you didn't dare to neglect it all. The corpses on the street were gradually surrounding her. She had no choice but to run as hard as she could, following Wang Mingyang's footsteps. The steel needles around him kept going back and forth, and Wang Mingyang slowed down a little. Otherwise, with his current physical strength that is 3 times that of ordinary people, so you would never be able to keep up. The strongest control range of metal control is 5 meters, and the maximum range is 10 meters. However, there is no need to liquefy metal now. You only need to control the steel needle to accurately pierce the zombie's head, so Wang Mingyang tried his best to control the steel needle to kill the zombies 7 or 8 meters away, and soon the two of them ran a distance of 400 to 500 meters. Passing by the corner of the subway crossing, Wang Mingyang suddenly found a familiar shop. The Condor Weapon Shop. At this time, the store door was wide open, and inside there were 2 waitresses wearing hanfu, and a few zombies who were obviously customers, wandering around the store covered in blood. The young lady who wanted to ask him to leave her contact information before had her whole chin missing at the moment. There was a large blood stain on her chest mixed with shredded flesh. When she saw Wang Mingyang's head emerging, she immediately pounced on him. Holy crap! I just told you to leave Hammer's contact information, and there really is a zombie who wants to date me. Wang Mingyang couldn't help but feel excited, and quietly gave a thumbs up to his foresight. I thought about it, and for the sake of a transaction, I rewarded this young lady. Several steel needles shot out and quickly cleared away the zombies. Xiaoyu glanced at the girl in hanfu with some strangeness. Wang Mingyang had killed so many zombies before without any trouble, but why did he visibly tremble when he saw this zombie? Just curious, he led Xiaoyu through the zombie-filled streets, killing more than 100 zombies along the way, followed by no less than a few hundred more. While Wang Mingyang controlled the steel needle to shoot the approaching zombies, he also controlled the steel roadblocks along the way to twist and deform, constantly forming obstacles to block the following zombies. Soon the two of them ran to the door of a luxury hotel. The 4 characters Liuha Baoli were hung on the roof. Before the end of the world, the most basic room in this hotel cost several thousand yuan a night, but now, Wang Mingyang can stay wherever he wants, without worrying about his empty wallet. He turned around and killed the dozen zombies that followed him. The zombies in the distance were still desperately climbing the obstacles he had set up. There was definitely no way to affect them in a short time. Wang Mingyang rushed to the hotel first. 7 or 8 zombies were stuck in the revolving door. They kept biting him through the glass door, leaving blood marks. Several steel needles shot in from the gap and quickly cleared the zombies. Wang Mingyang took Xiaoyu over the corpses and walked in. The hall was in a mess. Several female zombies in work clothes were lying on the counter and roaring continuously. Wang Mingyang controlled the steel needles to shoot the remaining zombies, leaving only one. With a calm and indifferent tone, Wang Mingyang leaned back on the sofa in the hall and raised his chin towards Xiaoyu. Xiaoyu, this zombie is left to you. It's up to you whether it's dead or alive. Xiaoyu held the knife handle tightly with her jade hand, took a serious look at the female zombie, and whispered, Brother Mingyang, if I die, please come back to my house when you are able to see if my mother is still alive. Wang Mingyang's eyes moved slightly, and he nodded calmly, go. I promise you. Chapter 17 Yijigu, is that you? You are listening at novelfull.audio. After receiving Wang Mingyang's affirmative answer, Xiaoyu felt relieved and turned to look at the female zombie. She held the horizontal sword tightly with both hands, and her eyes became more determined. As a forensic doctor, she was not a weak woman. She had a strong mind, calm and rational, which were necessary qualities. Facing the bloody zombies, her fear level was lower than 99% of the people in this world. Wang Mingyang saw Xiaoyu was ready, and in a flash of thought, the access card on the side of the counter quickly melted and fell off. The female zombie, who had been blocked by this access control, suddenly rushed out with a roar. Xiaoyu pursed her lips tightly, raised the horizontal sword and wanted to chop at the zombie. But the female zombie flew directly, grabbed Xiaoyu's shoulders with both hands. Opened her big mouth and bit her face. The huge impact force knocked Xiaoyu backwards, but she also barely avoided the zombie's bite, regardless of the pain on her back. Xiaoyu quickly blocked the zombie's mouth with the horizontal sword. After humans become zombies, their strength will be significantly enhanced, and their movements will be more rigid, but their running speed is still the same as that of ordinary people. Blood dripped down Xiaoyu's fair face along the back of the knife. Fortunately, her two palms were pressed behind her back, and she couldn't scratch her body for a while. The zombie held its head and pressed down tightly, and the blade slowly cut her mouth. Wang Mingyang narrowed his eyes and watched Xiaoyu entangled with the zombie, and the steel needles around him trembled slightly. Xiaoyu struggled to shake off the zombie that was pressing on her, and rolled over and climbed up. The short entanglement made her physically and mentally exhausted, but she was horrified in her heart. When she followed Wang Mingyang, she saw him killing zombies like cutting melons and vegetables. Most of the time, he didn't even need to use a knife, and those zombies fell 7 or 8 meters away. Xiaoyu always thought that these zombies were just like that. But now, she was so embarrassed and narrowly escaped death just by facing a zombie. Reality slapped her hard. Looking at the zombie struggling to get up in front of her, Xiaoyu felt that reality would definitely slap her again. Her heart was filled with fear, anxiety, powerlessness, and unwillingness. Xiaoyu roared with all her might, imitated Wang Mingyang's movements, stepped forward, raised the horizontal knife in her hand high, drew a diagonal line and slashed fiercely at the zombie that was about to pounce again. A dark red light suddenly flashed at the handle of the knife, which spread from the handle to the entire blade in an instant, and then a dark red blade light was drawn with the horizontal knife, which quickly passed through half of the zombie's body like lightning. The dark red blade light passed through the zombie and cut a deep knife mark on the wall of the hull directly. There was a faint dark red flame around the knife mark. The female zombie's action of pretending to pounce came to an abrupt end. A knife mark appeared from the left head to the right waist, and the upper half of the body slowly slid down. Xiaoyu stabbed the ground with her knife, breathing heavily, as if this knife had consumed a lot of her physical and mental strength, and a feeling of weakness and hunger arose spontaneously. "Yijigu, is it you?" Wang Mingyang opened his mouth wide, staring at the knife mark on the wall in amazement, and muttered to himself for a long time, "This is simply the real version of Yue Tianchong. Xiaoyu, this girl, is really lucky. The probability of awakening superpowers on the first day of the apocalypse is very small, and Wang Mingyang, who is hanging on the wall, certainly does not count, and the superpowers awakened by Xiaoyu at this moment, according to Wang Mingyang's feeling, will definitely become stronger and stronger as the level increases in the later period." Wang Mingyang took a few steps forward and carefully observed the zombie's body, which was faintly eroded and burned. Then he walked to the wall and squinted at the knife mark. He thought to himself that Xiaoyu's ability seemed to have both the characteristics of the dark and fire superpowers. After 2 lives, he had never heard of anyone with this ability. The Chinese Black Emperor is a pure dark power, and has never been heard of with fire characteristics. But the information shown by Xiaoyu's knife made Wang Mingyang raise his score for Xiaoyu again. This little fish seems to be really worth cultivating. In the end of the world, humans awaken various superpowers. There are very few people like Xiaoyu who have dual attributes. When they develop to level 7 or above, they are basically the overlords of one side. As for those who have dual or multiple superpowers, they are even rarer. Like Wang Mingyang in his previous life, he had 5 primary superpowers, which blinded countless people. It is no wonder that Han Taizhan, one of the 9 heavenly kings, the immovable king, looked at him differently. He even let his cousin Han Jun follow him all the time, just to find out why Wang Mingyang had 5 superpowers. Unfortunately, until the end, they did not get anything from the book 300 Children's Songs. It seems that only Wang Mingyang can obtain superpowers by reading that children's book, but Wang Mingyang's 5 abilities were too useless. If Han Taizhan hadn't provided him with a lot of resources over the years, he might not even have reached the 5th level. Let's go upstairs and find a room first." Ignoring the knife marks on the wall, Wang Mingyang, carrying his backpack, stepped forward to help Xiaoyu, who was still exhausted, and turned to the elevator. Originally, he just wanted Xiaoyu to face the zombies and have some fun, but he didn't expect that this time he would force out a dual attribute ability user. Wang Mingyang was a little amused, but he was still very satisfied with Xiaoyu's performance. At this time, the power was not cut off, and the elevator was still running. With a ding sound, the elevator door slowly opened. The female zombie inside, wearing a miniskirt and a tank top, had not jumped out before a steel needle pierced her brain. The body slowly collapsed as the elevator door opened. Wang Mingyang kicked the miniskirt out of the elevator, pressed the top floor button, and the elevator door slowly closed. Liuhe Baoli has a total of 18 floors, and the top floor is where the presidential suite is. Since he came here for free, Wang Mingyang certainly wanted to live in the best one. Soon the elevator door opened, and Wang Mingyang helped Xiaoyu out. There were a few zombies in the corridor. There were 5 rooms in total, and the doors of 3 rooms were wide open. After cleaning up the zombies in the corridor, Wang Mingyang chose a presidential suite on the side. After cleaning up the 3 zombies inside, he asked Xiaoyu to sit down on the sofa in the living room, and he took some effort to throw the 3 corpses out of the window. The corpses fell downstairs, attracting a group of zombies running over, and the fresh blood and flesh caused a commotion among the zombies. Go wash your face first, and then come over to eat something to replenish your energy. Wang Mingyang looked at Xiaoyu, whose pretty face was stained with blood, and pointed in the direction of the bathroom. Xiaoyu heard this and remembered that his face seemed to be stained with zombie blood. He let go of the sword in his hand, stood up and walked towards the bathroom. Wang Mingyang stood in front of the French window in the living room, looking downstairs silently in the smoke. The zombies were eating the corpses, blood was dripping, and the meat was flying, a scene of hell on earth. In the last life, humans awakened their superpowers and stood at the top of the food chain again. But Wang Mingyang was still a small person at the bottom. In this life, he had 2 superpowers at the beginning, and the tragedy would never happen again. Chapter 18 Enchanting Ability. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Xiaoyu slapped her cheeks with cold water. The little blood had already been washed away by her, but the feeling of blood dripping down her cheek still seemed to exist. He raised his head and looked at himself in the mirror. She was naturally beautiful and looked very delicate even without makeup. With her fair skin, cherry red mouth, and typical oriental oval face with bright eyes and white teeth, Xiaoyu knew that she was very attractive, but Wang Mingyang was unmoved. This man seemed to be born for the end of the world, calm, courageous, and strong, but, not strong. Xiaoyu was a little indignant. Recalling the experience of the past few hours, the sight of crazy zombies and flesh and blood made her tremble with fear, but she felt so at ease next to Wang Mingyang. Looking down at his palm, a dark red flame suddenly appeared in his palm. Xiaoyu recalled the scene of killing zombies just now. He only remembered that his mind was blank, and unwillingness seemed to occupy his mind. Then a cold, burning heat emerged from his body. Yes. That's right. There was a burning feeling in the coldness. As this feeling surged into her hands, an unpleasant feeling made her try her best to use it. Then, the dark red sword light flashed away. Xiaoyu knew that he must have awakened his superpower, and looking at Wang Mingyang's expression, he seemed to be very surprised by his superpower. It means that this ability should be relatively special or powerful. Otherwise, in Xiaoyu's memory, among the few expressions Wang Mingyang had, he only showed a hint of surprise when he knew who he was. After a brief wash, Xiaoyu felt a strong sense of hunger and quickly returned to the living room. Wang Mingyang turned his head in time, pointed at the food he took out of his backpack and piled on the coffee table in the living room, and motioned to Xiaoyu to help himself. No doubt about him, Xiaoyu was indeed very hungry at the moment, so he grabbed a pack of braised pig's trotters and started to eat them. You have awakened the primary power. Its specific function has yet to be verified, but it is somewhat special. It has both dark and fire attributes. Wang Mingyang returned to the sofa and sat down against the sofa with his feet up. He gave Xiaoyu some popular science in a calm tone. Since he planned to train Xiaoyu, he had to explain some common sense to her. The sword light of yours is very powerful. Judging from its power, it is at least as good as a B-level superpower, but it also has 2 attributes. It is likely to be an A-level superpower. It has huge potential. What is Class B? What is Class A? Xiaoyu looked up and asked, confused. This is an ability rating, judged based on the power and effect of the ability. There are 6 levels, E, D, C, B, A and S. Where do these ratings come from? I've read a lot of fantasy novels, I guess. Okay. So, Brother Mingyang, what is the level of your ability to control steel needles? A level. Oh. So you obviously didn't understand the difference in this level, but Wang Mingyang wouldn't explain too much to her at the moment. After all, the grading of superpowers happened 2 years after the end of the world. At that time, most people who should have awakened their superpowers had already awakened, and most superpowers were classified into levels based on their power and effects. The end of the world has just begun. If you reveal too much, people may be suspicious of Wang Mingyang's origins. How many times can you release this power? Zhutian tilted his head, sensing the slowly recovering energy in his body, and said with some uncertainty, it should be able to be released 2 to 3 times. Twice at most. You just lost strength with just 1 cut. It should be caused by failure to control the energy output. But even if you control the output well, it will take at most 2 cuts to achieve the effect just now. Wang Mingyang waved his hand and pointed it out unceremoniously. Suyu's arrogance. Xiaoyu wrinkled his nose in embarrassment and bit the pig's trotters hard. To survive in the apocalypse, you must be rigorous, especially in battle, and you must have an accurate estimate of your own abilities. Otherwise, you may kill yourself or your teammates. Wang Mingyang crossed his arms, his eyes were serious, and his tone was cold, and he warned Xiaoyu unceremoniously. Yeah. I understand. Xiaoyu is a smart girl. When she saw Wang Mingyang taking matters so seriously, she immediately took it seriously. I feel that the physical energy can indeed be released twice, but 3 times is a bit reluctant. Release it a little and let me take a look. Xiaoyu was stunned for a moment, then nodded immediately, stretched out a greasy jade hand to the top of the coffee table, and dark red flames suddenly started to burn. Wang Mingyang narrowed his eyes, waved his hand, summoned a silver bead from his pocket, stretched and twisted it to form a steel needle, and slowly floated above the flame. I saw the steel needle quickly turn red, and a touch of darkness eroded into the red steel needle. In just a few seconds, the entire steel needle turned into molten iron and shrank into a ball, sizzling and emitting black smoke under the burning of dark red flames. The silver beads that were originally as big as quail eggs are now only as big as a fingernail. It seems that many impurities in the silver beads have been burned away. Wang Mingyang took back the silver bead and turned it into a steel needle again in front of his eyes. Although the steel needle was shorter and much thinner at this time, through the metal control, I felt that the internal structure of this steel needle had undergone tremendous changes. The impurities that were originally intertwined in the steel and affected its toughness have been basically cleaned away, making the entire steel needle stronger and sharper. When he obtained the power of metal control, Wang Mingyang wanted to use the power to refine metals and increase their lethality. However, metal control is still a primary power at the moment, and its ability is really limited, and it is not yet capable of such precise operations. I didn't expect that the ability Xiaoyu awakened could do this, and even a trace of dark power eroded into the silver bead, making the silver bead carry a trace of corrosive power when it turned into a steel needle. Wow, this also has the ability to enchant. Can your dark flame ability cover the whole body? Wang Mingyang asked with some curiosity. He swears to heaven that he definitely doesn't want to see if the dark flame will burn his clothes. Xiaoyu heard this, tilted his head and sensed for a while, nodded and said, yes, I seem to be able to control this dark flame to attach to anything. As he spoke, Xiaoyu stood up and controlled the dark flame to ignite flames from all parts of his body, gradually covering his whole body. The magical thing is that under Suyu's control, this dark flame did not burn anything on her body, and even the carpet in the living room was not ignited, just awakening the ability. There is such control. Wang Mingyang couldn't help but nodded secretly, indicating that Xiaoyu should retract his magical power. Brother Mingyang, I have superpowers now, can we? Xiaoyu asked tentatively while chewing on the pig's trotter. Wang Mingyang shook his head and said calmly, you have only 2 abilities, and you haven't recovered yet. My energy is not enough. With our current state, it is impossible for the 2 of us to cross the city center. Xiaoyu bowed her head sadly after hearing this. As smart as she was, she certainly understood this, but she always couldn't help worrying when she thought of her mother being alone at home. Actually, you don't have to be disappointed. Wang Mingyang shook his head and continued, tomorrow morning, we will find an off-road vehicle nearby and try to cross the city. Really? Brother Mingyang, you didn't lie to me? Xiaoyu was surprised, one moment in hell, the other in heaven. Well. The premise is that you can master this ability tonight. Let's have a good rest and make plans tomorrow morning. Wang Mingyang nodded and said calmly. Okay. I will definitely practice more and strive to master this ability tonight. Xiaoyu burst into tears and smiled, and her greasy cheeks bloomed with a bright smile. Awakening superpowers will consume a lot of physical energy. Let's take a rest and go to the restaurant on the 6th floor to find something to eat. There must be a lot of good food in the restaurant here. Yeah. Let's go have a feast. Chapter 19 The Future Ice and Snow Goddess. You are listening at novelfull.audio. After Xiaoyu finished eating a few packs of pig's trotters and recovered, Wang Mingyang left his backpack in the living room, grabbed Mo-ing and took her to the 6th floor. Xiaoyu still held the horizontal sword. After awakening her superpowers, her physical fitness was strengthened, and it was very easy to use this sword at this moment. Moreover, Wang Mingyang planned to let Xiaoyu forge both horizontal swords at night, which could increase their power. But now Xiaoyu's energy has not recovered, so there is no rush. Taking the elevator down to the 6th floor, a group of zombies rushed up the moment the elevator door opened. Xiaoyu was frightened by the dense zombies and leaned against the elevator wall. Wang Mingyang slapped his forehead and whispered in annoyance, how could I forget that the zombie outbreak was at noon, and there must be a lot of people eating here. Although he was annoyed, Wang Mingyang quickly controlled the steel needle to shoot the zombies, and even ejected a space-cutting blade, instantly cutting off more than 10 zombie heads blocking the elevator door. A powerful kick landed on the chest of the headless zombie blocking the door. The huge force knocked down a group of zombies. Mo-ing drew out his sword and slashed at the zombies. Wang Mingyang, who was at full firepower, cleared a group of zombies in an instant. When the zombies in the restaurant rushed out, they ran into 9 steel needles, pierced their heads and fell to the ground. It took more than 10 minutes to clean up the zombies in the restaurant. Wang Mingyang picked up the scabbard, crossed the sea of corpses and blood, and walked into the restaurant calmly. Xiaoyu, who followed closely behind him, was sweating all over. Although she didn't participate much in the battle just now, she also tried to use the dark flame to wrap the horizontal sword and cleanly killed a few zombies that Wang Mingyang deliberately missed. Xiaoyu, who had experienced the zombie group, was facing hundreds of zombie corpses on the ground at this moment. Although she still felt sour in her stomach, she was much better, at least she wouldn't vomit. The restaurant on the 6th floor of Liuhe Baoli is quite famous in Chengcheng. It is high-end and classy. All kinds of delicate girls like to be treated by men to spend money. Many high-end people use this place as a canteen. Of course, a home-cooked meal costs thousands of dollars, which is indeed not affordable for ordinary people. At this moment, Wang Mingyang and his friends saw a messy restaurant, with all kinds of tables, chairs, benches, bowls, chopsticks, knives and forks everywhere, and bloodstains everywhere in the luxurious hall. Brother Mingyang, can we still eat here? Xiaoyu frowned and looked at the restaurant in front of her. She didn't eat much just now, and she was still very hungry at this moment. But the scene in front of her made her stomach churn constantly. A dilemma of an empty stomach and wanting to vomit made her a little irritable. What are you afraid of? There must be a lot of good ingredients in the refrigerator in the back kitchen. Just clean it up and you can have a big meal, right? Wang Mingyang didn't care at all. He smiled and walked to the back kitchen first. The kitchen of 200 or 300 square meters was very lavish, but it was full of blood and body parts. More than a dozen zombies were blocked by the iron door. The moment Wang Mingyang opened the door, he shot out steel needles and quickly cleaned up the zombies. The two walked in. Fortunately, there were many freezers in the kitchen, and all kinds of high-end ingredients were everywhere. There were many processed top-quality ingredients such as prawns and Australian lobsters in several large basins, which could be put directly into the pot. Brother Mingyang, let me cook for you. Although Xiaoyu felt that she had no appetite, especially with zombie corpses everywhere, even she, who was a forensic doctor, could not stand this environment, but Wang Mingyang didn't seem to feel anything, and still volunteered to show off. Okay, bring more Australian lobster steaks, it will probably be hard to eat in the future. Wang Mingyang was not polite. In the end times, there was really no chance to eat these. Steaks were okay, but Australian lobsters had to go to the sea, but before the end of the world, this thing was very rare to eat. The Japanese island country discharged nuclear wastewater into the sea more than 10 years ago. I don't know how many nuclear contaminated organisms have appeared in these years. The seafood that was originally very common finally needs a unique purification system and an artificial marine environment to cultivate. After the end of the world, the ocean has become a forbidden area for humans. Years of nuclear pollution and the weird aura of the end of the world, both of which can cause biological mutation and evolution, are all concentrated in the sea. As a result, countless marine organisms have mutated and evolved, creating countless powerful sea beasts, truly making the ocean a forbidden area for humans. Xiaoyu looked at the container and nodded with satisfaction. Well, this is a Western restaurant, there are a lot of these things. Okay, you do it here, I'll go to the restaurant. Wang Mingyang threw the corpse on the ground out of the door, told Xiaoyu, and closed the door. For 5 years in the end of the world, Wang Mingyang ate food in the ruins, in the shelter, and next to the corpse. He had no chance to cook a good meal, let alone a clean and hygienic environment. Now that he had a chance to have a good meal, he didn't want to squat beside a few corpses and eat heartily. He was ready to find a clean private room to enjoy it. Wang Mingyang walked along the aisle towards the private room. When he passed the corner, a private room door quietly opened a gap, revealing an eyeball looking at him. Ding! A steel needle shot out from Wang Mingyang's sleeve and directly penetrated the solid wood door of the private room. The people inside were frightened and quickly closed the door reflexively, making a loud noise. Brother Mingyang, what's wrong? Xiaoyu appeared at the door of the kitchen with a kitchen knife and an apron, and shouted in confusion. It's okay, cook your food. Wang Mingyang waved his hand without looking back. Oh, okay. Xiaoyu retracted his head obediently. Come out. Stop hiding. Wang Mingyang said lightly, and the steel needle that had penetrated the wooden door creaked and slowly retreated from the wooden door. When Wang Mingyang was already a little impatient, the wooden door slowly opened, and a man and a woman walked out. The woman was wearing a black suspender skirt, tall, fair skin, and swaying in high heels. She walked forward slowly, with a calm expression but a hint of innate coldness. The beauty's eyes flickered a little, as if she was a little scared, and a little curious. She stretched out her smooth and white palm to Wang Mingyang, who was wearing street goods. Hello, I'm Mu Ningxue. A figure flashed in Wang Mingyang's mind, and his eyes suddenly lit up. Looking carefully at the woman in front of him, she knew that her jewelry was worth a lot. The woman who could come in and out here must have either a rich or noble man above her, or a rich or noble man above her mother. This Mu Ningxue belongs to the latter. Her father founded the Mu Group, which is ranked among the top 500 in the country, with a market value of tens of billions. But, this is not the most important thing. The most important thing is that Wang Mingyang clearly remembers that in the last life, Chunqing had a peerless woman with an S-level ice and snow ability. She became a famous 9th-level strongman in the last 4 years of the last world, the ice and snow goddess, and was finally recruited by the Sword Emperor to become a powerful force. Her name is Mu Ningxue. Chapter 20. Your wealth is limited to yourself. You are listening at novelfull.audio. I know you, the daughter of the Mu Group. Wang Mingyang stretched out his hand and gently grasped Mu Ningxue's fingertips, then let go. But, I think there is no intersection between us. Mu Ningxue stroked her hair on her temples, smiled calmly and said, we didn't have any interactions before, but with the current situation, maybe we can talk about it. Oh. What do you want to talk about? Wang Mingyang squinted at the future ice and snow goddess. I want to make a deal with you. Mu Ningxue said calmly. Not interested. Wang Mingyang refused without thinking. Oh. You don't even know the specific content of the transaction, so you just reject me outright? Mu Ningxue's pretty face was stunned, and she never expected that the young man in front of her would refuse so simply. It's nothing more than a deal to protect you, and all you can pay is a large amount of money. Wang Mingyang smiled slightly, with a touch of ridicule in his tone. Boy, don't be ungrateful. Our Mu Group is one of the top 500 companies in the country. How dare you ignore our eldest lady like this? Before Mu Ningxue could speak, the man behind her who looked like a bodyguard immediately snorted coldly. Wang Mingyang tilted his head and looked at the bodyguard with cold eyes. The steel needles surrounding him turned around little by little and pointed at the bodyguard. A sense of chilling suddenly overflowed. The bodyguard was targeted by several steel needles, and his whole body felt like it had fallen into an ice cellar. His right hand could not help clenching his fist, and his whole body muscles were tense. Wang Mingyang's eyes narrowed slightly, and a steel needle moved forward slightly. Zhao Ding, what nonsense are you talking about? Stand aside. Mu Ningxue's scolding sounded, and the bodyguard named Zhao Ding was shocked. He quickly released his palms and quickly bowed and retreated behind Mu Ningxue. Later, Mu Ningxue apologized to Wang Mingyang with a smile and a slight bow. I'm really sorry. It was my people who were reckless. Please don't be offended. Wang Mingyang had a calm expression on his face, and his tone was indifferent but contained a hint of murderous intent. Oh, I'm surprised. How are you doing? Mu Ningxue was stunned again when she heard this. Maybe she had been pampered since she was a child, but she had never met such a straight man, who showed no trace of the gentlemanly demeanor admired by the upper class. Since you are so powerful, there is nothing we can do to object, right? Mu Ningxue quickly adjusted her mentality and continued to smile, speaking generously. Haha. Wang Mingyang smiled lightly, said nothing, turned and walked to other private rooms. Are you really not going to think about it? Just accept the conditions. Mu Ningxue asked unwillingly. Beauty, I'm afraid you don't quite understand. Zombie outbreaks and biological mutations are a disaster for the entire human race. It's not just here. The end of the world has begun. Wang Mingyang continued without looking back. So-called money has become worthless from the moment the end comes. Your wealth is only limited to you, Mu Ningxue. Although he was very envious of the future ice and snow goddess, Wang Mingyang knew very well that this woman was not so easy to conquer, and there was no point in being friendly with her at this moment. In the previous life, the Purple Thunder King, one of the 3 kings of China, spent a year trying to conquer this woman with all his heart, but was always unable to succeed. In the end, Mu Ningxue's powerful talent attracted the King of Swordsmen, and finally left the Purple Thunder King. Thunder King's control. Wang Mingyang's words echoed in the corridor, and Mu Ningxue's mind was shaken. For a while, she had not yet recovered from the reality of the global apocalypse. When the bodyguard Zhao Ding, who was standing behind her, heard Wang Mingyang's words, a bright light suddenly appeared in his eyes. Miss, what should we do next? Zhao Ding took a step forward and asked in a low voice. Let's wait and see. The internet signal is down now and we can't contact my dad. Mu Ningxue frowned and thought for a while. With this man here, this Western restaurant is still very safe for the time being. Wait a moment, let's see if there will be any changes tomorrow. Then, okay, miss, I'll clean up this private room, and you'll make do with it tonight. Zhao Ding lowered his head slightly and said respectfully. It's okay. Let's check back later. Maybe this guy will go to the top floor to rest. Mu Ningxue waved her hand, but glanced at the place where Wang Mingyang left. This unnamed man's strange ability to control steel needles made Mu Ningxue even more curious. As for how powerful this man was, she had a rough look through the crack in the door and saw Xiaoyu following Wang Mingyang, with such a beautiful girl following her, and Wang Mingyang still protecting her. Mu Ningxue felt that Wang Mingyang was not a bad person, so she couldn't wait to seek help. It's a pity that Wang Mingyang is obviously not a fool, and he won't approach a beautiful woman when she gets hot. But what does his last sentence mean? What do you mean my wealth is limited to myself? Mu Ningxue shook her head and turned back to the private room with confusion. the Western restaurant in Liuhe Pali was very large and had many private rooms. Wang Mingyang searched for a long time and eliminated many zombies that had slipped through the net, but still could not find a clean restaurant. There were blood stains everywhere. The moment the zombies broke out, zombies appeared in almost all the private rooms. On this weekend, there were many people coming to eat at noon, but not a single private room was left out. In desperation, Wang Mingyang had no choice but to go back to the original place, choose a private room with less blood stains, briefly clean up the bodies inside, and then return to the kitchen to find Xiaoyu. The encounter with Mu Ningxue and bodyguard Zhao Ding made Wang Mingyang gradually realize that there were more than just him and Xiaoyu in this hotel. He was indeed a little careless to leave Xiaoyu alone in the kitchen so carelessly. This is the end of the world. When people know that the zombie outbreak is a global disaster, without the constraints of the law, all kinds of dark sides of human nature will be exposed. His last sentence was actually a subtle reminder to Mu Ningxue. Wang Mingyang also didn't want the future ice and snow goddess to encounter something bad. After all, in the end of the world, the shelter under the protection of the Sword Emperor is one of the few relatively harmonious places, as a powerful fighting force under the Sword Emperor. The ice and snow goddess also made a lot of contributions to protecting civilians in her previous life. Her reputation among the survivors has always been very good, otherwise she would not be called a goddess. Gently pushing open the door, a strong smell of meat came, which made Wang Mingyang, who had spent 5 years in the end of the world and had eaten packaged food for 2 days after returning, feel that his saliva was about to overflow instantly. Brother Mingyang, we'll be eating soon. Xiaoyu heard the noise and turned to see Wang Mingyang. There were beads of sweat on her pretty face, but she was smiling brightly. It smells so good. I can't help it. Wang Mingyang moved his nose and greedily sniffed the strong meaty aroma in the air. Several pieces of tomahawk steaks were sizzling in the frying pan. That's right, I studied Western cuisine for a while. Xiaoyu raised his chin slightly, with a proud look on his face. Why did you learn Western cuisine? Wang Mingyang was stunned and asked. There was a boy who pursued me before. He always showed off to me how high-end the Western restaurant was and how delicious the Western food was. I was angry for a while, so I took the time to learn Western cuisine. In the end, I found that it was just like that. It was much simpler than Chinese food, and the taste changes were completely incomparable to Chinese food. Xiaoyu frowned and said indignantly, You're too straightforward. Wang Mingyang laughed. This girl is indeed cute. But this is also good. Let you, a folk chef, show off your skills, and we can also experience the food of a high-end Western restaurant.